today's Aphantasia YouTube clip is about me, I guess, to some extent, and writing the book. I didn't start out thinking to write a book. I've been watching some discussions on the Facebook group today. There's a couple of active Facebook groups about Aphantasia which are really good, and I do recommend people to join that maybe have just found out or really just have an inquisitive nature to learn more. Not everyone wants to know, and that's fair. I can understand that. It's like finding out you're left and right-handed. You know, do you want to know what it's like to be right-handed? I don't know, I'm left-handed, it's fine. For me, it's a quest for knowledge, I suppose. I want to understand it. So when I found out, what did I do? I guess I just thought, well, what's out there? So I started looking. I found Blake's post and the stuff from Exeter that they'd been on discussion, the radio, and a few other things. So it was either information on the web or completely research papers. There really wasn't anything that was for normal consumption for somebody with a non-medical mind or scientific nature. So I decided after a short while to write my own thoughts down, because I thought, well, what do I think? I've got this thing, so what is it? So I didn't actually start putting pen to paper. I didn't even type on a computer. I had an app on the phone which was, you speak to it and it just writes the words. I've forgotten what that's called at the moment, so forgive me. And I wrote about 5,000 to 10,000 words that way. It was pretty bad because obviously it doesn't get all the words right, and there were bits missing, and because it was me just rambling on, there were bits it didn't understand. So I had to go in and tidy that up, because well, me being someone that wants it to be as it should have been, I thought, well, I've got to tidy this up. So anyway, I started tidying up the English, and it got to about 10,000 words. And I was thinking, okay, this is more than I thought it was, and yet I'd still had something to say. So eventually I think I got to about 20,000 words, and I thought, okay, this really is something I should say. And I did think about going to something which is self-publishing. You can do that with Amazon, where you can publish and just basically do it all yourself. I did think about doing that, but I carried on writing anyway, and I got to probably about 30 or 35,000 words, and at that point I decided to try and find a publisher. I thought, this is a message that should be told properly. And when I say that, I didn't pass English at school in any significant exam, so for me it was something I needed to get right. There was things in this which were really important to me, and one of which was getting the words said correctly so people knew what I meant when I said it. And that was really significant in me trying to find a publisher. I didn't want to just write my own words, be happy that they're my words, but not convey the right message so people would understand it in terms of what I was trying to explain. So I was lucky. I say I was lucky. I wrote to hundreds, publishing houses, publishers, agents. It must have been over 3-4 months I did this. I literally just got a block and just wrote to them, found out who was on their submission page, which particular person would be more suitable for the book and the content. I used to Google certain parts of the country or North America or different countries where English speaking to try and find publishing houses that might specialise in that kind of thing. And eventually I found one in the UK that was interested enough to have a discussion, and they had some really good ideas which we adopted between us to be the book. And it ended up being additionally a questionnaire that was written as a survey that other people with the condition wrote, that became part of the book. And there were 30 other people that contributed, and without them it wouldn't be the book it is, because the uniqueness of the condition means that individually we would have a different story to tell. So telling one story would just give you a version of their condition. So it's manifestly important to tell multiple stories so you get an insight into the particular traits and the way they could be experienced. I didn't really understand all the different elements. I mean, for example, when I started writing the book, I concluded it was just vision senses that were affected. So for me, it was just the visual sense. I couldn't do store, record, retain pictures. And about 3 months in writing, I had an email discussion with the Professor Adam Zeman, and I said, I don't think it's just my vision that's affected. We had a discussion on email, and the conclusion was it probably isn't, but there's no evidence to prove that yet. It's still a theory and a supposition. Although anecdotally now, many more people have reported that all 5 senses are affected. I think it's one of those things. People will say to me, well, does it matter if we start discussing the details and explaining what it means to us and all that kind of thing? It doesn't. There are 2 ways to think of this. Would we have understood it was all 5 senses if we hadn't have shared that between the people that did? Probably not. You're not going to get to that conclusion from a scientific basis. You're going to get that from a reporting of the people with the condition. So it does become relevant for people to say what they feel, think and hear, because collectively that information becomes invaluable to the medical professions and the scientists looking at this. It will give them clues. It won't give them answers, but it will give them clues to what to look for. There won't be easy answers, I don't doubt that, but there will be lots of things that we come across and we think, oh, okay, I do that in a certain way, or I do this in a certain way, and you put that together with other people and you start working out traits and indications of how the condition might manifest itself. So I always advise people, if you're not sure, share it and ask the question. There are no daft questions in this for me. I think it's really important to share thoughts and ideas, and I'm quite happy to do that. And people say to me, oh, what do you think? I'm always happy to answer questions, and people will ask me and say what I think and share as much as I can, because it's the only way we're going to grow the knowledge. As I say, I did write this. It kind of feels weird now, but it was definitely important for me afterwards to have written it. I definitely needed to have written it. I felt much better having written it and sharing that. I don't know what I expected from writing it. I really don't. I think I was just puzzled that nothing existed. I really can't believe that no books existed. Nothing. There's no first-hand account. The closest you come is some of the people that have written books where they describe mind's eye in the past, but it's not really given a name at that point. And I've got to say, thanks to the Professor Adam Zeman and the team for doing that. The name is everything. I think the collective focus that a name gives, by having a name of something, gives so much more focus to it. It gives you something to look at, look for, ask questions about. If it didn't have a name, we'd still be trying to describe it in probably 20, many different ways, more than I could guess at. There'll probably be 30 different ways of expressing mind's eye, never mind what vision, and never mind if you get into hearing and the other senses as well. So it becomes massively important to have that. But just to conclude this, I just wanted to say thank yous to everyone that did contribute to the book, people that read it. If you have any questions, and you can find me on Twitter, on Facebook in the groups, or on YouTube itself. Just ask me if you've got any questions or things you want me to think about or share. I'm always happy to try and learn more. And I don't have the answers. I have questions. I have some answers. And I've certainly gained a lot of knowledge in trying to work out how some of this stuff fits together. So, in essence, just ask if you really want to know. If you don't, be happy with who you are. I think we are people that are just like everyone else. We go about the world and we do the things we can do. The only difference is we can't store those images, sounds and other things depending on our where we are on the spectrum of the condition. But having said that, I don't feel any different knowing. I do have other things that I'm trying to deal with, like I found I have Asperger's last year. Hospital still trying to work out what that means, but I'm answering their survey questions and going and having chats and things, but I don't know where that conclusion gets to, whether they just say this is definitely this or this is where it is. I don't know yet, but I say they're talking to me at the moment about that side of things. And so for me, I've learnt so much about my mind and how it works. I feel more comfortable with what I can do and what I can't do. You know, there's some things that we just can't do, but having said that, I like knowing why I can't. I suppose that's the engineer side of me, but anyway, just sharing those thoughts. Thanks for viewing this.